Yes.
Okay, well, here's a couple things. Yes, thank you for reminding me, because we have a whole different group of people here on Sunday night sometimes. For those of you that think, well, what are you going to do about space? Well, the church has already purchased a building to move our worship center to. And we've spent the last year trying to get the government to approve our plans to renovate that building as our worship center. And last month and a half ago, they approved our plans. And it's good it took them that long, because we're not ready to do it financially. This is how God works. So we saw this building, and it was catty corner to this building. So it's like right across the alley. It's this big brick 2-story building just south of the firehouse on Prospect Street. And it was a great deal, perfect space. Church came together, got the down payment, bought the building. Okay. We have no other monies. We bought the building on faith. So shortly after that, somebody in the community decided they didn't want their home anymore. They donated their house to the church. Now, it's a horrible home. It's a cat lady house. And so we've spent the last year cleaning it, renovating it. All the drywall's finished. We totally got it. I mean, some of us here, God's blessed some of us to have tremendous skills. And we can go into a house. We went into that house, gutted it, down to the studs, rewired it, replumbed it, re-insulated it, complete new drywall. It's going to be beautiful. And we got one room left to hang drywall. We were over there yesterday, and there's a guy staying there for us, and so that he can stay there, he does all the drywall finishing for us, and he's really good. So it's really nice. And we were just like, wow, this is going to be really a nice place. So what's going on is the church has been putting all their extra money into that, because we're going to sell that and take the proceeds and use it to fix up the building. And so God's timing, we just got the plans approved, and we're really close to having the house finished. Wow, that's neat how that works. And so I want you to think about this. Before we went to buy the building, we had no money. We weren't planning on doing that. And then God laid this building in front of us. He gave us the ability to get the money to get the building. He opened the doors for us to get the building. And we get the building, and now we're like, okay, now what are we going to do with it? And then God gives us a house so that we can have the money to renovate the building. I mean, that's how God works, you know. And so now we're at the stage as a church where as soon as we get the house done, if you know anybody that wants to buy a house for relatively inexpensive monthly living expenses, they will be very inexpensive. It's a 3-bedroom home. It's about 1,500 square feet. And it's basically all brand new inside. So it's really going to be pretty. And not the best neighborhood, but really cheap living. So, and a pretty nice house. So if you know anybody, tell them to come our way. We're selling it, though. We're not doing land contract. We're not renting. We have to sell it to get the funds to do the other things we need to do. So anyways, that building will be our new worship center. We will move over there. The sanctuary, the building will hold 300 people at once and different places to minister to them. So, and it's huge. It's 8,000 square feet. This building, first and second floor, is 5,000 square feet. So you can just imagine the amount of space there is in that building. That's just on the first floor. The second floor is another 8,000 square feet that we're not finishing. So it's a real blessing, and it's really exciting to the church. Once we get all that done and we're moved over there, our plans are to turn this building into a recovery center, and we will have meetings and all kinds of stuff scheduled here on a normal basis, and then upstairs we will be turning it into a women's shelter where we will take select women who really want to make a life change. And Kay, you know, there's about 3% of all the people you touch really want to make a change, you know. And we want to take those people and help them make a serious life change. And we already run a men's shelter, so that we'll use both of those, and we will truly have a true recovery center that's completely Christ-based. And we're really excited about it. So that's the goal. Now, what we're doing on Memorial Day weekend is that building is filled with stuff. The best way to describe it is stuff. There's construction material, there's doors, there's windows, there's all kinds of stuff. It was used as someone's storage space who owned dozens and dozens of rentals in Marion and other places. So there's all kinds of stuff in there. We're going to open the doors, we're going to drag all the stuff out in the parking lot, and we're going to sell it for whatever we can get out of it, because we need to get it out of there so we can renovate the place. So it's hard to renovate when you're moving stuff around. So that's what we're doing Memorial Day weekend on Saturday. And there's also some other stuff in there people donated for sale. So we're just going to sell it. So anything else you want to share? You look like you want me to share something else. I don't know what it is.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I have a lot of things going through my mind.
Okay. Well, share.
Yeah. No, I was just saying that, I mean, some of them don't know that, you don't get paid, none of them get paid.
Oh, they don't know that?
No.
Okay, well, none of us get paid.
And none of it gets paid, and there's a lot of stuff that happens here all the time, and nobody gets paid, and everything that comes in is 100% put back into the ministry.
Yes.
And we have a homeless shelter
Yes.
that is currently housing quite a few men.
Over 20 some men.
And so,
The church's been running a homeless shelter for over 8 years, probably over 9 years now. And we are the only shelter in this part of Ohio that'll take felons. And we take felons. And that gives us... It was funny. I was talking to my brother-in-law this afternoon. He's a sheriff here in town. He's a deputy sheriff. And he says to me, he's talking to me about the drug problem, and how he deals with it. And I said, well, yeah, I deal with it too. Because 60% of the guys that come into the shelter are drug addicts. And they're using. And we have to figure it out and either get them to stop or kick them out. And it's hard. I mean, it's hard to play the game, especially when you're a volunteer, and you have a bunch of volunteers, and the drug addicts are great liars. And it's hard not to become cynical and think that they're all horrible. And it's hard to have a tender heart to want to help them and not be taken advantage of and actually enable them. And we have a lot of experience at this church working with people who are really messed up for whatever reason. I mean, we have a lot of experience. And it's just really exciting to what Kay's saying. The vision that God's given us, we just are waiting for God to provide. And as He provides, the vision will be taken care of, and we will move forward with those things. And He's opening doors for us with people in the community that want to help us, people that have, for lack of better words, some equity in the community where they can help us get things taken care of rather than just fighting the system. Because I love to fight the system, so I'll fight. And sometimes that's not good. And so, but it's really, really exciting what God's doing. It's hard to describe everything we do. Our church's budget, here's a great example. Within 3 blocks of this place, there are 3 churches with a budget of over $30,000 a month of spending budget. So they bring in over $30,000 a month in tithes and offerings, and they spend that. One of them brings in over $140,000 a month. Okay? None of them run a homeless shelter. None of them have a youth outreach program to the needy kids and the lost kids in our community. None of them are trying to get together, or trying to get to a place where they can do a recovery center. None of those churches have NA meetings in their building every day of the week. They just don't. Our church's budget is $5,000 a month. And no one gets paid. No one. None of those churches have a weekly soup kitchen. None of them. And I'm not going... I'm telling you what she wants me to tell you is, this place, God moves. It's really awesome. I mean, last night you just sat here and you watch all those kids and you see what God's doing, and you're like, wow, just to be a part of this is just a blessing.
The interesting thing about God is that you still have things you have to do. It doesn't just happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't just happen. What I talked about this morning, and I know we're supposed to be doing this Bible study, but maybe we're not. What I talked about this morning was choices. And I looked at the congregation, I said, we played this video, my wife's going to play it for you, and I said, you know, we all sit there and we think, wow, that's a really awesome ministry. And like, we all sit here and just listen to me talk. This is a really awesome church, folks. I mean, I grew up in church. My dad was a pastor. I've ministered in over a dozen different churches, okay? This church is awesome.
Yes, it is.
Okay? Pardon? Well, it's awesome. God did that. We're just here. It's awesome. We get to see God move all the time in supernatural ways. People don't understand that it's awesome because people chose to serve God instead of self. And there aren't very many people here that have chosen to serve God instead of self. There's a lot of people that try every once in a while. You know what I mean? I'll try to serve God. I did it for 6 months. Now I'm going to serve myself for 3 months. You know, and I mean, I could literally track people's names and tell you, well, now they're serving themselves. You know, and then they'll be back in 3 months and they'll serve God for a little bit. And this is their pattern in their life. And we have people here that have really chosen to serve God. And when I say serve God, I mean they live where they live because they chose to obey God. They dress the way they dress because they chose to obey God. They make the amount of money they make because they chose to obey God. They don't get to choose hardly anything else because they chose to obey God. And wherever God leads them, that's what they do. They don't get to sit there and decide. And as I said this morning, okay, so choose this day who you will serve. Do it now. You don't have to serve me. I don't care. I don't want that responsibility. You need to serve God, and you need to serve Him as He's the most important thing. And you don't have... Did you find it, Beth?
I'm getting there.
Okay. You don't have the blessings. You don't have the things... You don't see the fruits of the ministries unless people choose to serve God. And you can have a church of 10,000 people and have no one in it that has chose to serve God. Because it's just a matter of marketing and putting butts in the seats. And you can have a church of 10,000 people and hardly see any supernatural things of God. And you can have a church of 60 people and constantly, day after day after day, see amazing things. Absolutely amazing.
I'd like to say, God has given me, in the last year that I've been here, many opportunities in many areas of places and people to talk to, and I brag on the church constantly, so you don't have to. I do it for you.
Well, thank you, because it makes me feel bad.
But the one thing I always say to everybody that I love about this church, and I know that it is the reason why people see so many different things, is that, you know, you go to church and everybody says, oh, I'm a Christian. Mm-hmm. And when they walk outside, they act just like anybody else. When you come here, nobody tells you they're a Christian. They just live it. Mm-hmm. And that's the difference. You live, and that's what I tell them.
Not all of us live it.
Well,
I'm just...
But that's what I tell them about the kids, you know. The kids come here, and, you know, Mike, we have to overlook sometimes.
Amen. Amen.
The rest of us, we try harder.
She can throw it back at you, can't she? That's good.
But anyway,
She's been in the game for a lot longer than I have.
but, you know, the kids come here, and I think that's why these kids love it so much. Because they don't come here and get told Christians. They come here and see us live like a Christian should live. Yep. We talk, treat, act like a Christian should. I love it. I don't have a lot one-on-one with the kids here, but just that little bit of contact I have out there, the kids recognize me on the street. They're starting to come to talk to me more, and I miss it when I'm not here, and I have to miss it every so often, but I miss it when I'm not here. And I don't do anything to sit there and write down names or sign them out, but it's still that little bit of an interaction. It's so great.
Yeah.
And I just keep bragging on the church, bragging the pastor. I love my pastor. I can honestly say that.
I asked God to bring me old ladies that would love me, so, and He did. Brian, real quick.
Saturday morning, I was actually able to help with the luncheon that we do every Saturday. It was really nice because seems like every Saturday
More and more people.
And it was really nice because
It's because I haven't been here for a while.
I took it upon myself to help out. I was like, man, I have to move out from now on. And I really done. A lot of people complimented me because what I had done was it was Mother's Day weekend, and I served the mothers before the guys, and I announced that before we done that, and a lot of guys got mad, but I was like, you guys got a day coming up in June.
You're lucky nobody beat your butt. Some of those guys are hungry. They're going to share a video with us. I just want, because you're right, Kay, not everybody here knows. Turn the lights down.
Come on, go hard to the end, don't quit it. Sky too close now, don't hit it. World's the same, it's all a game. Look at Frank, don't change a thing. Get up, the sky gon' burn tonight. You know y'all gon' learn tonight. Feed the hungry and take the sick. We gon' help the homeless and love the kids. We gon' move to a place where it's hard to live. This
is them waiting to get in at 7 o'clock.
Yep.
One question, that's it, just one question. What is your favorite thing about the beach? Seriously? Basketball? Alright, cool. Wait. What's your favorite thing about the beach, Gage?
It smells nice.
Huh?
It smells nice.
It smells nice? Alright, sweet.
It don't smell nice.
Come on. Come to hang out with your friends? Sweet. Let me ask you guys a question. What's your favorite skit that you've seen here so far? Part of the show. What's the funniest thing you've seen here on the show so far? The ranch one? Was that it? Alright, cool. How about you? What's the funniest thing you've seen?
The ranch.
The ranch one? Alright, cool. What's your favorite thing about the beach?
Where you can just hang out, have fun, and win money.
Yeah?
And keeps me out of trouble on a Saturday night.
Alright, cool.
That's what, because I ain't not doing something bad out here.
Right on, cool. Good deal. Good deal. Alright, check it out.
That's a miracle, you're right.
Funniest thing you've ever seen on the stage here?
On what?
Someone threw up.
Someone threw up? Alright, cool. How about you? What's the funniest thing you've ever seen on the stage? Talking to them.
Probably people hurt themselves or other people.
Yeah. Alright, cool. Hey, you.
Boys, yes.
Whoa, camera guy. What's your favorite thing about the beach?
Monsters.
Monsters? Like the drink monsters? Alright, cool. Stop. What's the favorite thing about the beach? What's your favorite thing?
Hanging out.
Hanging out? Playing this thing right there?
No.
No?
Okay, this is gonna
Hey, that's your question. How about you? All right, David, right there, microphone. Talking to you. What's your favorite thing about the beach?
Basketball, obviously.
All right, what's the funniest thing you've ever seen on stage here?
On stage, him.
Where's Dylan?
Funny? All right, cool. What's your favorite part of the beach? What's your favorite thing about the beach, period?
I would have to say, how they put everything together just for us.
Yeah? All right, what's the funniest thing you've ever seen on stage?
When, his unicorn skit.
Nate's unicorn skit?
Yeah.
Is Nate really funny?
No.
What's the best food you've ever eaten here?
I would have to say the garlic bread.
The garlic bread?
They love family.
Talking to that. What's the funniest thing you've ever seen here?
Someone get the table flipping.
The table flipping?
Yeah.
Alright, cool. Check this out. Is Nathan Honaker funny?
No.
No? Not at all? How about you? You think Nate's funny?
Nate's the MC.
Hey guys! Is Nathan Honaker funny? No! I didn't think so.
I was blocking against it.
I know you were. I saw it. He isn't funny, is he?
He's got that dry humor.
Oh, dry humor is an understatement. Anyways, for those of you, that's what Saturday night is. And every kid you saw in there was not a church kid. And ever. Some of the one kid that said that you guys care about us is not a church kid. And Shawan. And just some of them were just heathens. And they know that we care about them. And if they ever had a moment where they needed somebody and they needed to turn to, they know we're here. And we still get people who call us up, talk to us, that we ministered to 10 years ago. And they know we're here.
Even last night, when you guys were down with the accident, there were 20-somethings that were there that were driving, and they're like, the bee, I haven't been there in a couple of years, and they're collecting it.
Yeah, there was one of the persons that was with the person who hit her. They asked me a couple questions, and I was like, well, I'm the pastor at the Bee. And they're like, the Bee, really? She was coming from the Bee? Man, I haven't been there for years. That was when I was a kid, and this is like a 26-year-old. And it's just, the harvest is plentiful. I mean, this church has sowed so much seed in this community. It's frightening, and it's really exciting to see what God's doing. But I want you to think about that, because I just sat here and I think, God, okay, what you can do this with $5,000-$6,000 a month. That's amazing. What if God grew the church? What could happen? I mean, you guys realize if this church had a $140,000 a month budget that we wouldn't need social services at all. You know that, right? Yeah. We're already the place the Salvation Army sends people. We're already the place the Job and Family Services call people. We're already the place where the police department calls. Okay? We're already the place where, when they found out that our homeless shelter was bigger, it was filled up in 2 weeks. And it's just, you just go, what could happen? And just pray for the church, because we're there, and it's amazing what God's going to do. And I truly, I'll say this, and don't think I'm being arrogant, I truly know if God provides the finances, God will use us to fix the drug problem in Marion.
The interesting thing is, though, none of these ministries are pretty.
Oh, I'm not pretty. That's why God made me the pastor of the place.
But they're not. It's not that church program.
It's not. My brother and I were talking this afternoon, and he was talking about how all these churches want to do something. Well, they do. They have a Bible study once a week. And if you know anything about overcoming who you are, a once-a-week Bible study ain't going to do it.
They do send money to missionaries.
I tell you what, jobs program, the stuff that she talks about and how many groups, awesome.
Yep.
She's awesome.
But you have to have godly people willing to walk with individuals, not have a program, not set for an hour a week and talk. You have to have individuals take somebody's hand and walk with them through ministry as God transforms them. It's called discipleship. And discipleship isn't a class you take on Sunday morning. Let's just talk about it. We were talking about this, and it was funny because we took a guy into the greenhouse last night. The greenhouse is the homeless shelter. And he's been doing opiates since he was 18. He's 30. He started doing opiates with the guy standing back there at the camera. And he's our youth pastor. He's the guy that made that video. Well, how did God transform his life? And here we got two people, same age, or close to it. One's a youth pastor, and God's using him to touch hundreds and hundreds of kids' lives. And the other one's a drug addict who has no place to go, and he's used everybody up that is in his family. What's the difference? God and people walking next to him. That's the difference. Somebody willing to say, hey, come on, let's go do this together. That's the difference. In the last 10 years, has he thought about going back? Yeah. But he knows he's got people in his life that are in his life. They don't meet with him once a week. They're in his life. They'll knock on his door. What are you doing? That's the difference. She's got her spoon. She'll whack him.
Oh, I got a very different thing. My bad.
No, oh, you're a sick woman. You people. Oh, I'm just joking. No.
No, I have a wooden
everyone with a wooden spoon.
Yeah, they're all the church moms around here. They're like, "Oh, take the spoon to you little kid."
Our first thought, though,
Was your spoon. Yeah, your spoon. Yep. I got it. Yeah, Kay's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I would like to add last night that when everybody was running down the street down there, and there was a few of us adults still left here, and there was a bunch of kids still here, and they were real panicky.
Yes, they were.
You know, they'd all heard. And, you know, they come and, we shut the doors to keep them back in here so they wouldn't be out there. And so I came back with them, and they want me to answer questions. I have no idea what's going on. After all, I'm here, and everybody else is down there. And so I just kept saying to them, the one thing we need to do right now is pray. If you just pray for it, and God will make everything okay. And they didn't really just start praying because basically they're street kids, but at least they stopped and quietly thought for a minute before they went and panic began. And I thought, if that's all I can do is tell them, we just need to pray. That's more good than anything else. And pretty soon they were all pretty calm. So that was really a good way of
it's exciting.
Showing that example of what we want to do.
It's exciting to be a part of what God is doing. But to get back to what I was sharing about the difference between a program and God. That's the difference. Drug addicts don't need a program. They need to be introduced to God. And they need to walk with God. And you don't learn to walk with God by somebody who meets with you on Sunday morning for an hour.
That's where you go.
You know what I mean? Jesus didn't teach his disciples by meeting with them every Sunday at the temple.
It's not that we have sponsors. Kay and Dr. Mark and a guy named Scott, I don't want to say, you guys really are our sponsors. They're there to help us if we fall. There are safe people. Mm-hmm. We know we can go to either three of them, any of them, and they'll help us. Mm-hmm. In the church in Prospect also, if we fall, they help pick us up. I mean, we all slip and everything. Everybody does. Nobody's perfect. But it's not like a sponsor. It's not like NA. They hold you accountable for whatever you do. But they're really like, oh, you did that. Oh,
right.
So you don't get your medicine, you can't get heroin.
The difference the thing that will change people's lives is when they stop living for themselves and live for God. And you don't learn that from someone who's not doing that. And I'm not saying anything about the people you're talking about. I'm saying, yeah, it's all Bible based. But the difference, what's going to be different about what we do here is we're literally going to take people by the hand and we're going to walk with them as God uses them. And we're going to show them that God, living for God, is way more exciting than any drug you can get your hand on. Mm-hmm. And it's way more emotionally fixing. It's way more than, it's just absolutely, it's way more fulfilling. And you just, You do, and it's not a Sunday morning thing. The reason why junkies are junkies is because they want more.
Exactly. We never are satisfied.
And it's not an uncommon thing. It's not a junkie mentality, folks. Everybody is a sinner. We're all addicted to sin.
Yep.
Some of us, it's chemicals. Some of it's thoughts. Some of it's mindset. Some of it's selfishness. Some of it's stuff. We got a Miss Hoarder over here. Some of us are, yes, recovering hoarder. I mean, every one of us has our addiction. Every one of us. And the answer to solution to that is live your life for Christ. And living your life for Christ isn't going to church on Sunday morning. It's a daily lifestyle that you live, and you do not belong to yourself anymore. You belong to God, and He can spend you as you wish, as He wishes. And if you allow that to happen, it's amazing. It's so funny that we get people all the time that come into this church, and we get church people who come in here on Saturday nights, and they start telling us how we should minister to the teenagers. And we've been ministering to teenagers for 12 years. I've been ministering to teenagers for 23 years in this community. Evan, when he was a kid, went to another one of my churches that I was ministering in before I started here. That guy back there. And was in my youth ministry then. Okay? It's one of those things where you sit there and you go, and we have people come in there, well, you need to teach them about Jesus. Okay, sure. How few of kids would you like to be here? Because I can get up there and start pounding Jesus into their heads. And you know what? We'll have about 20 kids here next week.
That's when you lock the doors, put chains on them and everything.
But Jesus is, the Spirit of the Lord is the one who, that's exactly what they'd like us to do. The Spirit of the Lord is the one who brings the person's heart ready to receive Him. It is just my job to love that person and realize when God's doing something, here's Jesus. If all I do is shove Jesus down people's throats, that's not the point. Our job is to love people as God brings them to the knowledge of who He is. Period. And it just amazes me how we think there's a special fix somewhere to our addiction problems. And we're all addicted to sin. The fix is stop living for you. Start living for God. Choose. That's the fix. And you saw that video? Well, that's a result of about 12 different people who chose.
I have a comment on what some of the kids were saying just last night. One boy left here early, and he was making, it sounded almost like an adult complaining, why are the kids doing these things, you know? He was complaining, why do they come up here and want to argue and fight? They should come up here and want to have fun. I'm going home, and he left, you know. Another one will come out, you know, and they'll talk about whatever's going on, and they'll say, I know I can't control myself. I'm going to have an argument if I stick around because so-and-so whatever, and they'll leave. Another time last night, he come in and had an inappropriate word on his shirt, and they changed his shirt right out there, turned him on his side. He goes, right here, I said, you're a boy, nobody cares. If you were playing basketball, you take your shirt off anyway.
Good for you.
And so he took it off and turned it wrong side out and put it back on. You know, they don't give you a hard time because they know this is a good place for them to be.
We love them. Well, I'll tie this into what we're talking about because it's critical. When you give your life to Christ and you choose to serve Him instead of yourself, the most important thing that you can do is be obedient to Him in how you live your life. And one of the first things we need to be obedient to God in and how we live our lives is our adoration, our affection. What do you put your affection towards? God created humans with a weird ability to have affection. It's almost supernatural. It's a beautiful thing. It's special. What do you put your affections upon? This special thing that God gave you, that He didn't give anything else. Where are you placing it? Are you placing it on the quality of your life? Are you placing it on finding yourself? Are you placing it on your children? You know, if you're giving up your addiction because of your kids, you're wasting your time. What do you mean? You are. Because eventually your kids will make you mad, and what will you do? Screw that! That's what you'll do. You know what I'm saying? You'll be like, what am I... And they'll make you mad, and you'll say, screw it. What are you putting your affection upon? What are your eyes gazing upon with longingness? Well, if it's anything other than God, He's a little angry. Yeah, that jealous word that everybody thinks is evil, but yet if jealousy is evil, then God is a sinner. Because God is a jealous God. He wants your deepest affections. Most people who are addicted, they don't do their addiction because they love it. They do their addiction because they're hungry for something. Yeah, hungry for the pain to go away. Hungry for a different feeling. Why aren't we hungry for God? When you're hungry for a different feeling and you choose things that you know are wrong, you've placed your affections upon your experience. Your affection is upon yourself and what your life is like, what your experiences are. And it leads to destruction every time. Praise is you practicing being affectionate towards God. You're practicing it. The Bible tells us that every time we practice it, He will show up. Let me tell you something. I've led worship. If I added up all the times I've led worship, it's probably been 7 or 8 years. There's been a season here at this church where I didn't lead worship. But I love to worship. I'm a passionate person. I love to give my passion to God. I love to give my affections towards God, because there was a short season in my life where I put my affections on me and stuff and other people, and I was raised putting my affections on God. I was raised, my parents modeled putting their affections upon God. I was blessed to have that model. Most people don't have it. So there was a season when I was like 17, 18 years old, I put my affections upon me. And in those 2 to 3 years, the results were catastrophic. When all your life, affections have been about God, and then all of a sudden, affections are about me, and life all of a sudden starts getting gross. You know what I mean? You're like, well, there's something wrong. And I went back to God. I just ran after Him with all my heart. And He's blessed me with the ability to just praise God. I mean, it's scary. I mean, I scare people when I'm praising God. Because they're like, is he like acting? No, I'm not acting. That's who I am. I want to be David. I want to be the guy who gets made fun of. I want to be the guy that gets made fun of. My wife's like, get that ephod on, honey. Let's go home, you know. Well, that's right, baby. Let's make some more babies. Anyways, but let's practice. Anyways, I'm done. I thought that too, but I kept getting girls. Well, maybe that was perfection. Maybe God's trying to teach me something. Anyways,
You were giving too much love there.
He was teaching me patience. He's making me perfect by giving me all those girls. I see. But I want you guys to realize that if you will choose to put God as the center of your affection, you're like, well, what about all the other people I have to be affectionate towards? Don't worry about it. That's right. It will overflow. And the affection you give to those people, your children, your husband, your wife, whoever it is, your buddy, that affection that you give to them will be good instead of evil. And you guys know where you've given affection and it wasn't good. You know, ever done that? It's me. You thought you were doing good. Every man in the room is like, oh yeah, there's so many times I thought I was doing good and it wasn't. But you know what I mean. Because you women are hard to please. You're like the stupid cats. Anyways. Yeah, squirrel? But I want to bring it together because we're talking about praising God. And, you know, we left off and one of the things we're talking about was praising God has to be the first thing. Praising God is you practicing putting your affections in their proper place. You know the key to overcoming your sin? It's being in control of your affections. So wouldn't it make sense to discipline yourself, to put your affections? Discipline doesn't mean punish yourself. Discipline means practice doing the right thing. So wouldn't it make sense to practice putting your affections where it belongs? I want to give you a vision. And then we'll be done for the night because we've talked about everything but this Bible study. But maybe it's the rounding out of it. The vision that God's given me, because Kay asked me to talk about the new building and what we're going to be doing. The vision that God has given me personally, and folks, most of you do not understand. Just a few of you in this room understand how big that vision is and how costly it is to me. Okay? The vision that God has given me is a ministry center where we actively, on a daily basis, train people to discipline their affections in the proper place. What do you mean, actively train people to discipline their affections? The vision that God actually physically gave me, like I saw it with my eyes, was a place where every morning I come in to church. This is what God's going to have me do. And I'm not all that happy about it. Not because I don't want to obey God, but because that's not really what it's like, you like to do certain things, you don't like to do certain things. It's like, really? I hate sitting around talking to people. If you've ever noticed me, all of a sudden I'm like, somebody will be talking to me, I'll just get up and walk out of the room.
Or you zone out, I know.
Yes, I hate sitting around talking to people. I feel inadequate talking to people. I'm just like, my brain's going. I mean, if you want to talk to me, go work with me. And I'll talk to you for 12 hours while we're working. Anybody know men like that? Anybody have men like that? Yeah.
I'm like that.
Yeah. The vision that God gave me was I would come into church every morning. Every morning. I would come in here and I would meet with 15 to 20 to 30 people. And they would be eating lunch or breakfast. And we would talk. And then we would go into the chapel and we would practice disciplining our affections. Every morning we would have chapel and we would have a praise service every morning. And it would be for the people that are in this program to practice disciplining their affections. Every morning at 9 o'clock we would have chapel and we would open the chapel with a time of prayer and praise. every evening we would have chapel and we would have prayer and praise. And you just go, well, that's a lot of stuff. Wow, yeah, it is. And I know for a fact that it will change people's lives. My wife told me this morning, she said, there was a guy here from the greenhouse. And in the middle of worship service, you could just see him doing this. You know, and she thought maybe he had to pee or something. You never know. And she goes, and he left, and he came back, and as he came back, he was wiping the tears from his face. Now, this is a person who probably doesn't know the Lord at all. Maybe. And God touched him because there were people in the room praising God. The Bible says that God inhabits the praises of His people. And I know one way for sure to set somebody free from their sinful habit. Get them in the presence of God. Teach them to be in the presence of God. That's the one way I know it will work. Now, what normally happens is the person who doesn't want to be in the presence of God just leaves. Well, that's fine. Leave. We'll have somebody else fill their spot. Because we have plenty of drug addicts. We have plenty of sin addicts. Because drug addict, alcoholic, porn addict, it doesn't matter what you are. You're an addict to sin. You love sin. You love what the sin does for your emotional experience, and you love your emotional experience more than you love righteousness. The fact is, you don't have to give up your emotional experience to serve God. Because God's emotional experience is better than the drugs, than the sin, than the selfish indulgence. And where you learn that is in your affections. We sin because we want to be affectionate about something that will make us feel good. If we would take our affections and give them back to God, because that's what He created us for. He created us to give our affections back to Him. And if we will learn to do that. We used to have this when I was teaching a group of people to learn to get into the presence of God. And seriously, to learn to be in the presence of God and know how to get there on a consistent basis. I used to tell them, now this sounds totally unspiritual, so don't be frightened. Fake it till you make it. What do you mean? Well, I was a leader of worship team, and have you ever show up to do something you got to do, but you don't really want to do that night for some reason? No, you can't go out. I mean, if you're leading worship in front of 300 people, you can't come out like this. I am a friend of God. Doesn't work, does it? So I'd tell people, fake it till you make it. And then we would always laugh about it, because I promise you, if you will practice disciplining your affections, even though you don't feel like it, by the time you're done, you almost always forget about what you were frustrated and angry about. And it actually got to the place where people had gotten so disciplined, and this is where you need to get in your life, every one of us, that when we were down, we couldn't wait to worship God. Why? Because we knew it was going to take it away. What do I get down about? Circumstances. I get down about emotions, feelings, consequences, things that are going on in my life. Well, how does it take it away? Well, when I get into the presence of God, I realize that all of my stupid problems are just stupid. And that God is so much bigger than my stupid problems. And then I realize that God loves me. And if He wants to take the stupid problems away, then He will. And if He doesn't, then I've got something to learn from them. Cool. It's a real deal, dude. I mean, it's a real deal. It really happens. And the most awesome part about it is God physically, supernaturally touches people's spirits and changes their life. This is the best part about it. When you lead people into the presence of God in praise, it's not your job to fix them. It's your job to get them into the building. Come on, come on. I'll give you a cookie. It's not your job to fix them. It is simply your job to get them there and praise. And then God touches their hearts in ways you have no clue how it's going to happen. You just know it's going to happen. And you just praise God and go, ah! And then you're like, cool. Wasn't that great? And they're normally like, you're crazy. That was amazing. Yeah, it was. Let's worship God again. And if praise isn't like that to you, you're probably not praising. You're probably singing. And Chris, there's a difference, isn't there? My wife and I were talking about that. You ever listen to those Christian songs? Like the Christian radio songs? And you're like, wow, that's a really good song. The words mean so much to me. And then you ever listen to that same artist do the same song as a worship song? And you're like, whoa. Wow. I did that. I have this thing about guys who sing like this. You know, it drives me crazy. I mean, guys that can't sing like this, you know. And if you ever listen to guys that sing on the radio, almost every guy that sings on the radio, Christian radio, they only will take guys that sing like girls. You know, because it's soft, it's gentle, it makes people warm and fuzzy feeling, you know. And so just because of that, I love Chris Tomlin's songs are awesome. I mean, his words of his songs are awesome, and he's a tremendous worship leader. But his radio music drives me nuts. It's all produced. It's blah, 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 blah. Well, a couple months ago, I ran across a video of him on YouTube doing a live worship set in front of 70,000 people. And I was like, Chris, where's that been? Because now I see why they signed him to do songs on Christian radio. Because the man can worship the Lord. But it doesn't come out in that Christian radio music. Because he's singing a song. So when you praise, here, listen, when you praise, don't worry about what it sounds like. Now, this is how I know people. My wife does this. Hey, if it's going to sound bad, turn the radio up so you can't hear yourself. Right? You're like, why do you have the music so loud at the church? So we can't hear you. That's why. We have the music up so loud up here because if we don't, we hear you. And we can't focus past what we're hearing. We don't want you to open your eyes and see us going. You know, we don't want to do that. So we got a guy up here this morning, he was singing off key. It was driving me nuts, man. It was driving me nuts. You heard it too. It was like, wow, baby, down. Yeah. It was turn it up. But fake it till you make it. Praise God because you're disciplining yourself. And it will be better than anything you can have. Because that's what God created for you to give Him your affections back. I want you to think about that. What do I place my affections on? Because there's a lot of people in the room tonight. Men's affections are different than women's affections. Just trust me. I have a house full of girls. We go over to guys' houses. We go over to people's houses with little boys, and I go, I love little boys. Because their affections are different. And women, what do you put your affections on?
Your emotions.
Yeah. And do you take that and give it to God? When was the last time you cried out to God with all your heart? with all your emotions. Because if you don't do it that way, it's not praise. You're not giving him your affections. One of the most awesome things about women is they are amazing. They have ability to be as emotional as any. You can't describe the emotional passion women have. It was hilarious to watch these moms run down the road yesterday, holding their fat bellies because they're pregnant, because this little girl is in the middle of the road and no one knows if she's alive. And they're running down the road, these preggers. Laura and Angie are running down the road, holding their bellies, sprinting down the road to get to this kid. That's their beautiful affection. That's their beautiful emotional, and guys are like, what's going on? We're like slow in the head, Then I get down there and I'm angry, Hey guys, you get passionate about something, you're just angry? Yeah. And all I saw was this little girl that I care deeply about. I saw her, she goes, bye Pastor Mike, and she's riding on the back of somebody's bike. She's standing on the pegs. And I'm like, was that Ariel? And then just a few minutes later, she got hit. And I'm going down, I didn't know who she was riding a bike on. I get down there and I'm like, whose bike was she on? I said it like that in the middle of the accident scene. And her brother's like, it was mine, I'm her brother. I'm like, oh, you're lucky. It's going to kill you. If that was your 12-year-old girl and it wasn't her brother, somebody's dying now.
That was his first night.
You wish that car hit you. When I'm done with you, boy. But it's your emotions, women, your emotions. Are you as affectionate towards God as you are for your children? Because your affection for God should make your affection for your children look like hatred. That's what God said. I'll even go as far as this. That could be why you're addicted to sin. What do you mean? I mean, if God's a jealous lover and you're giving your affections to something else that belong to Him, what do you think a loving father would do to you? Bend you over his knee. Turn you over to yourself and say, fine. Love your kids more than you love me. Go ahead. Fine. Love your lifestyle more than you love me. Go ahead. Do it. I haven't felt God for years. Well, of course you haven't. Because you haven't reached out to Him with your heartfelt affection for years. You've been spending it on everybody else. That's what praise is, folks. Praise and worship. Worship is a lifestyle of serving God. Praise is the actual act of giving your affections to God. That's what praise is. Are you practicing giving your affections to God? Because that's the key. It'll set you free. You'll go from one life, one day to the next, one experience to the next, and experience the glory and the presence of God. It's amazing. It's super special when people that understand that get together and start praising God. This is how creepy it is. I used to do this to people. It's really funny. We used to get people together that knew how to praise God. Okay? I used to pastor a church where we had some really neat experiences in praise. We used to get people together who knew how to praise God. And somebody would say, well, I'm inviting so-and-so to church tonight. Yes. Because they would literally go outside and get sick. What do you mean? Oh, yeah. We used to put people outside the building. Good old sweet ladies like Kay out there. What's wrong, sweetie? Yeah, she dyes her hair. I'm in touch with my oldness. I'm crusty old. Y'all should just join me in the crusty old club. Anyway, it's a fun place to be in it, Mike. Anyways, we used to get together. And we used to have this group of teenagers. And there's nothing more awesome than when you can take a group of teenagers and teach them to because you know how affectionate and passionate teenagers are. They're like unruly passion. That's it. Take them and say, take this passion and just give it to God. It becomes so powerful, it's scary. We used to take this group of teenagers, and this was the first time I met Evan. He was one of the kids that ran outside. He wasn't feeling good. He came, and we were in this little garage. The room was a little smaller than this room, and there was like 30 kids in there. And this group of kids who were at a place in their life where they were just passionate for God, we started worshiping the Lord. Nothing special. And these kids would get physically ill. I'm not joking. And we would have Betty Nicholson, or we'd have Joyce Smith, and they'd be waiting outside the garage. What's wrong, sweetie? Well, I don't know. I just don't feel good. It's okay. So what's going on in your life? It becomes, I felt like I was a little sick and twisted doing it, but you get a bunch of people that are passionate about God, and they start serving and praising God. And folks, I'm here to tell you, God will touch people. He shows up every time. He really does. We went for months at this one church. I'll just share this one thing. We went for months at this one church where either Sunday morning or Sunday night, in the middle of just praising God, someone would run to the altar and get saved. We didn't go one weekend for almost a year where somebody didn't run to the altar and get saved just in the middle of praising God. We didn't give an altar call. There was no message. We started church with music, nothing else. We didn't start with prayer. We didn't start with anybody talking. We just started playing music, and we started worshiping God, and all of a sudden, people would be like, and we went almost a whole year with somebody running to the altar and getting saved or recommitting their life to Jesus Christ with no altar call. Nobody saying a word. Because people of God were praising God, and people who didn't know who God was were in the room going, I think I'm screwed. What is this? I need to go to the altar and pray. I don't know why. And they would. They'd run to the altar and just run to the altar and cry. Why? It wasn't because, well, it might have been because I was singing and it was horrible. The screeching dog karaoke, But it wasn't. It was because we were worshiping God. It wasn't anything special. We were just praising God. And it didn't matter. Did you know that God's like that? Did you know it's not something we work up? Did you know that He's here, and if we will take our time and we will put everything away and we will focus our hearts and our minds on Him, that it becomes a real experience and it'll blow your mind. And all your issues you had, you'll be done and you'll be like, do you remember what I was upset for? No. Okay. If you don't know God like that, you should. It's pretty amazing. And that's what praise is. Thanks for being here. Have a great night.